slideshow. Hello, chess fans. Welcome to another edition of Chess Chat, a program designed to give you, the viewer, a better understanding and an appreciation of the wonderful world of chess. I am your host, George Merijanian, Program Director of the Wachusett Chess Club at Fitchburg State College. This club meets in room C199 of the McKay Campus School at Fitchburg State College every Wednesday from 7 to 11. And with me is my trusty co-host, Martin Lane, current champion of the Wachusett Chess Club and one of the most active chess players in North Central Massachusetts. Welcome, Marty.
Hello, George.
Marty, today we are going to focus our attention on the New England Open Chess Championship. It's one of the most prestigious chess tournaments held in New England. And we have with us today two local players who competed in that event. It was held over the Labor Day weekend at the Holiday Inn in Boxborough. And let me introduce to you, close to you, is Gary Broussard of Leominster.
How you doing?
Gary, welcome here. Gary, by the way, congratulations, because Gary Broussard tied for first place in his section of the tournament and did very well, tying for first place.
Thank you.
And next to Gary is Larry Gladding, also of Leominster, who competed in the tournament and is one of the most active players. You also, Larry, are very active. Your chess goes back many, many years.
Right? Both active members of the club as well.
Both very active members of the Wachusett Chess Club. They go back actually like 30 years.
Right.
But anyways, I want to get back to the New England Open Chess Championship because we had a very surprising finish to that tournament this year. The top-rated player, he's International Grandmaster Alexander Ivanov. We should have a photo of Alexander Ivanov. He is 52 years old. Here he is on your screen. He lives in Newton, and he was the heavy favorite to win this year. And all Alexander Ivanov had to do was to draw his final round game in the tournament. It was a 6-round tournament, and he would have clinched first place. And he has won this New England Championship 6 out of the last 10 years. What he did is he was upset by a national master, a master by the name of Alex Cherniak of Watertown. We have a photo of Alex Cherniak, who grew up in Lincoln, Massachusetts, learned chess at the age of 8. His father taught him the game. When the Bobby Fischer, Boris Spassky match was being played actually in Reykjavik, Iceland. And his father, who was working at Lincoln Labs, said, "Hey, you know, my son, you have to learn the game so we can follow the games of the match on TV." Shelby Lyman was doing a televised coverage of the match in 1972. And of course, it was front page news in all the newspapers back in 1972. So Alex Cherniak learned chess during that Bobby Fischer, Boris Spassky match. Now, those two, with Ivanov losing to Cherniak in the last round, again, Ivanov was leading by a half a point, just needed a draw to clinch it. But another player by the name of Denis Shmelov, we have a photo of Denis Shmelov, who lives in Pepperell. He just turned 25 years old a few months ago, and we've done a show on Denis Shmelov.
He's a state champion.
He won the state championship back in May of this year. And Denis Shmelov opted for a half-point buy in the final round of the tournament. Well, that's allowed. Actually, the rules of the tournament say that if you want to not play the round, you have to commit yourself to telling the tournament director that you want to take a half-point buy, but you must commit yourself before the second round. And that's what he did. He said, "I want to take a half-point buy in the final round." Well, by doing so, he tied for first with Ivanov and Shmelov and Cherniak. But the real Cinderella story of this tournament was the performance of Alex Cherniak. A phenomenal result. And by the way, both Cherniak and Shmelov are untitled masters.
Right. So they have experience on a national level, but Ivanov is an international grandmaster. He's played at the world level.
Yes,
and for a number of years.
Yes, actually, he came to this country. Ivanov came to this country in 1988. He was born in Novoshavka, Russia. That's actually in the Omsk region of Russia, in southwest Siberia. And he came in 1988, settled in Newton. Actually, then it's Brookline. He moved to Newton. But he is definitely one of the strongest players in the country. And he's a phenomenal player. But again, a big surprise this year that he lost to a master much lower rated than him. Well, let's actually get down to our local players because, you know, we had actually Gary Broussard, Larry Gladdy, and we actually had two other players who competed in the tournament. One of them will be joining us later on, Kenneth Gurge, who is also from Leominster, competed in that tournament over the Labor Day weekend. And then we actually have Alan Condon, another Leominster player. So we had 4 Leominster players competing in the main, in the event. Kenneth Gurge competed in a one-day event, but then we had a Fitchburg player who's a youngster who goes to Memorial Junior High School. His name is Mark Norris, and he competed in the scholastic section of that tournament. He unfortunately could not be with us today, but again, he's a beginner and will learn much by playing in these tournaments, and he plays every week at the Wachusett Chess Club. So let's start to turn attention to our local players and get their reaction.
How about if we have some photographs from the tournament? What if we put the photographs on now, get Ken seated, and then we'll have all 3 of them.
Excellent idea. Okay.
So let's put the photographs on. If you do the commentary.
All right.
This
is actually a selection of photos taken by Tiffany C. Wang of Sharon, who, by the way, is the webmaster of the Massachusetts Chess Association website, which, by the way, won the award as the best state website in the country. The Massachusetts Chess Association website, Tiffany Wang, and she took these photos over the weekend. And he gives you a feel of what's going on in a chess tournament. You see the players at the board studiously, studying the positions, keeping score. You'll see clocks. You'll see score sheets. And again, this was at the Holiday Inn in Boxborough, Massachusetts. And again, this is just a selection of games. This is a tiny fraction of the photos that Tiffany Wang took at the tournament. So again, this is what a tournament is like. You sit down, you have lots of space to play at. There's no crowded conditions. And again, we played at this massive tournament hall that actually it was like 14,000. It's like 14,000 square feet. So it was very spacious for the players. So let's turn our attention.
Ken has joined us.
Ken Gurge has joined us. Ken, welcome.
Thank you.
And Ken actually is also a fanatical player. In fact, I think he has the lead, tied for the lead as far as the most number of games at the Wachusett Chess Club. In fact, we have a little contest that, as far as he has perfect attendance. He's appeared every
gold star every year.
You're right, and again, he appears every single week. He loves the game. So welcome, Ken.
Thank you.
So, Martin, you must have some questions for some of our local players.
Well, I guess the thing I was always curious about is how do you prepare for a tournament like this? This is different from playing in a club where we have the club members, the same people, same guys we play week after week in different rotations. But now you're going to a big tournament, you're outside of the club, mostly strangers. How did you prepare for this tournament?
How did I prepare? I basically have chess books. I don't have Fritz or anything, so what I do is try to look at some of my favorite variations, which is difficult. You're not going to bunch them all in there in a short period of time.
Right.
But you maybe look at the ones that you have a good feel that you're going to have to play against, just to familiarize yourself with them. And that's basically what I do.
All right, and what about you, Larry? I mean, if you go into a big tournament like, say, in most sports they talk about coming in with your A game, your best openings, how do you decide which ones you're going to prepare for ahead of time?
Well, it's kind of hard because unlike the club where you can specifically pair for an opponent and you know what he plays, you don't know any of these people or what they're going to play, so the responses are much greater. So you have to really go through a generalized opening lines of many variations.
Right. And Ken, I'm sort of assuming it's the same for you, but about how long in advance? I know that when I get ready for a big tournament, I sort of think in terms of 2 or even 3 weeks when I start thinking about seriously playing for a particular tournament? What about you? How long in advance do you start to prepare for an outside
About
tournament?
the same as you, Martin. 2 weeks usually, and I tend to focus more on black because you have a little more control over what you can play with black. So I work deeply on my black responses to both E4 and D4 openings, and then more cursively go through the white openings.
Right, because white has the opening move.
You don't know what the other
Black has
guy-
the response. You at least have the choice of response, and so you can kind of determine. Let's go back to you, Gary. Do you tend to prepare, say, a more cautious response as black, or do you like an aggressive response as black? Or do you choose, say, if you're playing a higher rated player, do you play more aggressively or less aggressively? How do you respond?
Sometimes I'll play how I feel, or where I'm at in the tournament too. If I need a full point, I may play a little more aggressively. If I'm, maybe behind or something I can't afford to lose, then I may play something more, not an aggressive type
A
opening,
little more conservative?
a more conservative
solid.
type opening.
Okay, how about you, Larry?
I play a little more aggressively. I like the game to get opened up. Unfortunately, sometimes that's my downfall because I open the game up too soon. But I like the aggressive game.
And how about you?
I react more to the opponent's strength, and if it's someone who's theoretically weaker than me, I try and keep it more complicated to hope that my advantage in rating works. And if it's the opposite, if the opponent's much stronger, I try and open it up and simplify it to give myself a theoretically better chance of not losing.
Now, Martin, can I interject?
Sure.
Gary, who I said tied for first place in his section, it was actually the under 1800 section of the tournament, which is actually a very competitive section. He did it by beating in the final round Harold Dondas, who was the longtime chess columnist of the Boston Globe, who goes way back, who's a legend in New England chess. In fact, it was Harold Dondas who beat Bobby Fischer here right in Fitchburg in March of 1964 in a simultaneous exhibition at the church, the Unitarian Church at the Upper Common. So Gary ground down Harold Dondas in the longest game of the tournament. This actually lasted almost close to 6 hours. I was there, and I saw Gary, just nurse, an advantage and gain one pawn, then 2 pawns, then 3 pawns, and then nurse that right to victory. So it was impressive.
Had you played Dondas before?
I had played him before, yeah.
So how did you, knowing you're going to face him in the last round, how did you decide? What color did you have?
I had white, and I changed on the spur of the moment. I was getting ready to play a certain type opening, and I switched to the London opening at that moment. But I also believe I had a few years on him, so that may have helped.
Yes, but he has years of experience.
He's got years of experience.
Despite his age. And I think Ken certainly has played Harold Dondas.
In another almost 6-hour game 2 tournaments ago in which he ground me down.
Yeah, and this was a major this was actually what tournament?
Continental
Open?
Open in Sturbridge.
Okay. And Larry, have you played Harold Dondas? in
Yes,
your
many
career?
years ago.
Okay, so again, Harold, we could tell our viewers that actually Harold's going to turn 86 years old in October, but he is still stronger than ever, at his age, So he's a phenomenon.
By the way, he gave us a very nice write-up in today's Boston Globe in his chess column about this chess program.
In fact, he did actually give us very positive review of Chess Chat, and kudos to Fitchburg Access Television, for producing and making this possible. I wanted to actually ask our guests here when they learn chess. At what age did they take up the game?
I was around 10 years old, I believe, 9 or 10. My best friend, Thomas Testagrossa, taught me how to play chess. And he had this little board with red and black men, red and black squares.
I see.
And I was around 10. If I remember, I beat him in the first game. I never said anything about that. I think he let me. And it wasn't until I was around 14 and I was really getting into reading all types of sport books, boxing, football, you name it, and I ran across a couple of chess books. I might have been around 13. It was right around when Bobby Fischer was going for the championship. And I found a chess book by Fred Reinfeld, How to Play Chess Like a Champion. And then it continued on. And then I joined the club about 3 years later after I met you at a chess simul downtown Fitchburg.
This was
back
actually
in
during
1976.
Was this the bicentennial celebration?
Yes, it was, July 3rd, 1976.
Yeah, that was actually a very noted event in Fitchburg, because in the bicentennial celebration, we did actually an outdoor, not only a simultaneous, but it was actually it was open house for people to come. We had giveaways, we had food, we had the balloons. It was a great outdoor event, very much similar to what actually is being done in Fitchburg now on these First Thursday celebrations. But we did it back during the bicentennial celebration. So, Larry, how about you? When did you learn chess?
I learned when I was in the 4th grade. My father was always beating me in checkers, so I was looking for a game that I could learn and I could beat him in. And like Gary, I didn't get serious about chess till Bobby Fischer match with Boris Spassky in '72. And I got interested in high school through the chess league, where I met you, and I subsequently in '76 joined the Wachusett Chess Club and been playing ever since.
Very good. And Ken, I've known Ken from more than like 25 years,
At least.
What is your,
I'll use this as my excuse for why these two are better than me, is I didn't start till I was 17. And I think it does make a difference. The earlier you start, the better you're likely to become. Around the Bobby Fischer time, I got involved, just picked up some books and learned on my own at 17. Didn't play again until I was in the Army, which is where I met you. You ran the chess club at Fort Devens, and I played some there and followed you to Wachusett until I went away to law school and dropped the game for about 20 years and came back to this club in 2003 after a 20-year layoff and picked it up again. Never leaves your blood once you get it.
And it's interesting that Ken mentions the Fort Devens Chess Club, because actually we had a weekly club, I think it was on a Tuesday night at the Crossroads Recreation Center. And would you believe that International Grandmaster Alexander Ivanov came and played? We had a weekend tournament, and we offered no prize. It was really no prize money. I think maybe it was very small. But here is a professional chess player who's going to venture out to Fort Devens. He took the train. I remember picking him up at the train station there, because he had no means of transportation. He took the train. So, and I said to Alexander, I said, "This is really surprising. You would show up at Fort Devens to play in a tournament where you would dominate. There was no one even close to him in strength, and he won it." This is back sometime in the '80s, that he won the tournament.
I don't suppose we could convince him to come to the Wachusett Club.
No, it's going to be very difficult. In fact, Alexander now, because he's a professional chess player, actually does not play at any club. He doesn't have to play at any chess club. He can just, right now he's a well-traveled chess player. And again, we have 3 grandmasters in Massachusetts. Alexander is the most active of those 3 grandmasters. The other 2 are Larry Christensen of Cambridge, who also travels around, but not as much as Alexander Ivanov. And we also have Eugene Perlstein, who lives in Swampscott. So we have 3 strong international grandmasters in the state, and this is the first time we've ever had so many.
Yeah, going back to something Ken said, we have a lot of young players in Massachusetts, and if you remember the photos that we showed of the tournament, there were a lot of young student players playing in the tournament. How do they play in the same sections that we do?
Yes. In fact, in the slideshow we saw, that went actually relatively quickly, but you'll see youngsters playing youngsters. That means they're playing in a scholastic section of the tournament. But we also saw youngsters playing adults. And these youngsters want to improve their game. And the best way to improve your game is you must play those who are stronger than you. You learn from your mistakes by losing to stronger players, by playing against stronger players. That's how you make progress. How do you guys feel against playing against kids? They've all played.
Well, I contributed in the last tournament by losing to a 12-year-old named Grant Hugh, who's a very good and up-and-coming player. And I'm amazed by how quickly they play, and yet so well. Takes me much longer time to find a right move when they seem to do it almost instinctively. So
I feel like I've sat there thinking, well, this kid's not paying attention at all, and still they're finding the right moves.
Yes, they are. Well, first of all, they're very studious. Those who actually do that study chess. They devote, and they take lessons.
Right.
A lot of these youngsters, like this Grant Sue, and others, they take lessons on a weekly basis, and the combination of lessons and playing in tournaments That's how they make progress, you know. But they are what I call booked up. That is, they study the openings, they study what's in the books. But if you want to have a chance against these younger players, what you have to do is not to play the established major variations of these openings or defenses, because they know it better than you will. So the idea is to find some sub-variations, some lines that are not considered major lines in openings. Then you have a chance if you adopt these. That's been my experience. If you adopt these sub-variations, you have a better chance of.
What kind of a turnout did we have this year? I wasn't able to go. So
Well, we had a 3-day main event. The main event was 3 days: Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And we also had a 1-day event, and Ken played in the 1-day event on Monday. That total for that event was 117 players for the 3-day main event and the 1-day. We had 66 youngsters playing exclusively in scholastic sections. We had six different sections. Mm-hmm. 1 day was for K through 12, kindergarten through 12. Then the next day was kindergarten through grade 3, and then it was kindergarten through grade 6. So we had 66, a total of 183
so you
players.
had players as young as kindergartners playing.
Oh yes, we had 5-year-olds. We ranged from 5 years old to our soon-to-be 86-year-old Harold Dondas. You know, and again, this tournament, by the way, the New England Open was held in Leominster 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's been around, and we've had some other international grandmasters who have won this. Very prominent people, by the way. We've had Grandmaster Robert Byrne, who for many years was the chess columnist for the New York Times. He won this New England Open back in the 40s when he was a student at Yale University. Then we had International Grandmaster Bill Lombardi, who was Bobby Fischer's second at the World Championship match in Reykjavik, Iceland in 1972. And we had a former U.S. champion, Lev Albert of New York, who's come and won this tournament. So we've had some very prominent people win the New England Open, and this is the first time in a long time that we've had 3 players tie for first. Usually it's been either a single champion or two players, and as I pointed out, Ivanov has won it 6 out of the last 10 years.
Did any of the top sections have outright winners, or were there? I know Gary's section was a tie, and were there other ties?
Yes, actually, if you give me a little time, there was actually a clear winner, an outright winner in one of the sections, and that was actually Scott Didham of Sharon. He playing in the section for those rated under 2,000. He scored 5 points out of 6, so he was a clear winner in his section. And getting back to Alexander Ivanov, I wonder if our cameraman Bruce Felton can zoom in on this. I'm going to show it. This is an illustration, an artist's drawing of Alexander Ivanov that was actually drawn by a local artist, Robert Cole. Now, those of you who are into art, okay, right we are. This was actually drawn, what year is this? This is 1992. Yeah, he did this in 1991 for the cover of the Chess Horizons, the award-winning Chess Horizons magazine, and Robert Cole is well known to those artists in the Fitchburg, Leominster area. He won many awards, and he did this exclusive drawing for Chess Horizons. Also, Alexander Ivanov, 10 years ago. This is how he looked when he won the New England Open. If we can zoom in on this cover photo, this was actually taken 10 years ago, and we can zoom in. We can zoom in really good on this one. We can get actually Ivanov. This was taken at his home, I believe it was, and again 10 years ago. And as I say, Ivanov is the dominant player in New England. I mean, when you mention Ivanov, other masters shudder when they realize that he's playing in the tournament.
Now, his wife is an accomplished player as well, right?
Yes, he is married to women's international master Esther Epstein. And she doesn't play as much as he does. He is a full-time professional chess player, but she is a very strong player, and she has won the U.S. Women's Championship, in several years ago. So the family, again, we're very blessed that we have these emigres who've come from the former Soviet Union. Again, Ivanov was born actually in Russia. And also, what did I say? Shmelov. I didn't tell you actually that Denis Shmelov is from the Ukraine.
Right.
He came here in November 2005, and he lives in Pepperell, as I said, and he's a student at the University of Massachusetts at Lowell, studying, he's majoring in economics, and he's minoring in law, and so he's another fixture. We're going to hear more about Dennis Shmeloff, and Alex Cherniak. Tying with these two is really the Cinderella story of this New England Open. So, any other questions we can ask our guests?
Well, I was mostly interested in what do you regard as a good tournament, a well-run tournament? I mean, my experience in tournaments here in Massachusetts is mostly that they are well-run, that the tournament directors know what they're doing, that the pairings are up on time, playing sites are good. What's your impression of tournaments around here?
I have about the same impression. I've been playing in tournaments probably at the old Holiday Inn since about 1975 around here, and I've never had any bad experiences with the tournaments. The directors are all educated, they all
know the rules, and
they know the rules, and they tell the people what's going to happen before the rounds and everything, so everybody's comfortable.
Do any of you have any superstitions? I mean, sometimes I know ball players won't shave during a playoff series, or won't change their shirt in the course of a playoff series. Any superstitions?
Not that I can think of.
No, I don't have any either.
And none?
No.
Well, there are superstitions. There are players actually, like Michal Botvinnik, who was world champion, would not change his clothes. If you wore a certain clothing, pants, shirt, and you won a game, you wouldn't change your clothing. You would actually play your next game in the same apparel. So yeah, there are those people who are superstitious.
For years, I always had to have pizza the night before the first round of a tournament. I just, I just had to, and if I didn't, I never did well. So. That was I'm doing that up. Oh, but that used to be for years. I just had to have pizza.
Right. Well, again, we're very fortunate that we have these active players, Ken Gurge, Larry Gladding, Gary Broussard, and Alan Condon, who couldn't make it tonight. We actually have a photo of Alan Condon from the tournament. It was taken by a professional photographer, Tony Cortez of Cambridge. Here's Alan Condon, who works for the federal government. He works for the Food and Drug Administration, and he's probably on the road now. He does a lot of traveling, but Alan has become a fanatical player and shows up at the Wachusett Chess Club at Fitchburg State College every week, as well as the three guests. So we're very fortunate to have very active players, interested players, and we welcome more people who play chess. And you don't have to be a strong chess player. We welcome beginners, because by getting involved with the local chess club, if you want to improve your game, that's the first step. In fact, every one of these players, our guests, have made great leaps, great strides in improving their game. I remember from way back how they did, and they have improved immensely over the years. And that comes with playing and studying. And I think actually there's more benefit by playing. My personal experience is when I was young, I would study, but I found that I gained more by playing, the practical experience of playing. And I think there's more to be gained by playing face-to-face than playing on the internet. Now again, that's the rage. More people, there's basically millions of people basically who play chess on the internet. But actually, if you want to really understand the game more thoroughly, it's playing face-to-face.
Do we have any events coming up in the area anytime soon that people might want to go to?
Well, actually, in November, the Sunday after Thanksgiving, we have a tournament coming to Leominster at the Leominster Veterans Center. Actually, it's the former Boys and Girls Club at the 100 West Street in Leominster. We're going to we held it there last year.
The Pillsbury?
It's the Harry Nelson Pillsbury Memorial, and it's going to be held actually in Leominster. So, chess fans, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. We had our special guests from the Wachusett Chess Club, who competed in the New England Open over the Labor Day weekend. And next time, we're going to give you a program devoted possibly to the Greater Boston Open, which is coming up in October. And that's going to be held in Natick. So I hope you join us when we present a promotion of the Greater Boston Open next month. So please join us for the next episode of Chess Chat.